So the so-called Slovenian Spring began at that time, and our movement or our circle was part of that.
On the 26th of June 1991, the flag of the new independent sovereign state of Slovenia fluttered in front of the Parliament building.
I never dreamed I will be or I should be Prime Minister. Communism likes very much the concept of the enemy, which I think is coming back in Europe.
Today I have the honor of talking with Alojz Peterle. Thank you for taking some time and talking with me.
With pleasure.
Alojz was the Slovenian Prime Minister from, if I have it right, from 1990 to 1992. And we will go a little bit into the history of how this came to be. So my first question is, could you talk a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up?
I grew up in a small, remote village in 1948, and I was born at home as the others in the village. I was the first child. We just had 1 hectare of earth, but nobody told me that we were a poor family. So I realized that later, I was born on a hill, on a sunny hill, I would say. I think I spent a very beautiful youth there, but we were really a very poor family, and the village was poor as well. We had to reach everything on foot, to go to the church, to the shop, to the railway station. It was 2 hours far from our village. Even no one, I don't remember a bicycle in the village in 1955. So this was I think I spent beautiful youth, and my first real job, I would say, was to take care for 1 goat. I was shepherd of 1 goat, this was my responsibility because we all had to work, I would say, and I'm happy that my parents were able to to show me how to say what work means, let's say so.
So if we go back to that time period of 1980 to the 1990s, that is a time that for me is very far away, and our generation maybe doesn't know very much about that time. Can you take us back to that time in Slovenia and also in just wider Europe? What was happening and what was your involvement?
I would go back to 68. I belong to the generation 68. I began to study geography, history, and later economics in Ljubljana, in the capital of Slovenia, in 67, and then 68 followed with occupation of Czechoslovakia, with Jan Palach burned himself. I still have photograph of him in my archive. So I belong to a group of Christians who were fighting for that religion is considered a personal issue, not just private issue. Communists wish to have religion as a private issue, one hour a week, and then no. We were trying as young Christian intellectuals to get freedom for our social engagement. What was, of course, politics was not for us. We were issuing a magazine with the title 2000, I would say future-oriented. We studied personalism and many other things. And I learned a lot in that group. So we really wish to be responsible or active citizens. The slogan today is active citizens. citizenship. And then in late 80s, developments in Slovenia, so the so-called Slovenian Spring began at that time, and our movement or our circle was part of that. I never dreamed I will be or I should be prime minister. But my party, the Christian Democratic Party, I was co-founder of Slovenian Christian Democrats. We won first democratic elections, and within the six-party coalition, which was called Demos, and our two main points in our programs were democracy and independence. So we won with this focus or this accent, and then so suddenly, I would say, from one goat to that position, it was a complete surprise, because in the communist time, Christians were considered or was treated as the second-class citizens. We had to learn how bad is religion, Christianity, and so on. So then from zero to the first position, because to be prime minister at that time, and this were first democratic elections in my country after Second World War. So for me, that was the main responsibility for independence. But I would like to tell you that on the very day of the election of my government, Yugoslav army took almost all the weapons from Slovenian territorial defense. So we began our way to independence with empty hands. But 1 year later, when we were attacked after we proclaimed independence, so we were attacked on that very day in June 26. So at that time we were ready. We were able to get enough weapons, and we surprised our attacker, but also the rest of the world. So we won that war, and since then I would say we are on the political map of the world.
Can you explain a little bit the history of how Slovenia gained independence? Go back a little bit. How that process even happened?
We had a kind of state in the 7th century. There was so-called King Samo, known also in Slovakia and other parts of Central Europe. But then later we lost that statehood, and but the idea of independent nation or state was always with our nation. So after the First World War, Slovenians were trying to. Our idea was to restructure the monarchy, Austro-Hungarian state, I would say, into a state with more respect to different nations, cultures, languages, and so on. But the monarchy was not able to restructure itself, as this was not the fact with communist Yugoslavia. And the same we can say for the Soviet Union. No? All these transnational structures are the history has shown are not able to restructure. So when the Berlin Wall disappeared, so we understood that this was a good opportunity for us to finally to join the free nations in Europe, to join European Union, what we did, I would say, a few years later. So there was a very strong determination, I would say the idea of the independent statehood, democracy, after 45 years of communism, of totalitarian regime, was very clear, was supported. We won those first democratic elections by this idea. The former communists still, despite the fact that they left the last Congress of the Yugoslav Communist Party with the conviction that Yugoslavia was finished, but they, in the campaign, in election campaign, they proposed that Slovenia continues with Yugoslavia or in Yugoslavia. So Slovenians had for the first time in their history the chance to decide freely whether to have own state or not. So they supported our coalition demos, so we won, and this was then the beginning of our way to true independence and democracy.
And as you mentioned, you were the first democratically elected Prime Minister of Slovenia, and not just that, you were also a Christian. Yeah. What kind of backlash did you receive during that time?
As I said, I was not only a surprise for the communists, and they were. I would say I was lucky, or no, it's maybe too much to say I was lucky, but it was good that they underestimated me and the coalition, because the so-called realists, the diplomats, high VIP politicians who visited my office, they said, don't dream too much, be realistic, nobody will support you. These words were repeated many times by the then Yugoslav Prime Minister Markovic. He said, you will not get $1 of support, you will not succeed. Those visitors were telling me the politics is the art of the possible, but we turned it into the art of the impossible. We did independence in 1 year after being elected. So it was a special undertaking, I would say. I was many times asked, did you fear that and that? But I can say that there was no time for fear. We were determined, we were sure this is the opportunity, let's use it. And Soviet Union was also disappearing. The world was not as it was in the Cold War, so we simply said, let's use the opportunity, and we succeeded.
And you also served many years as a member of the European Parliament. What are your experiences of that time? That's a very broad question, but...
I'm proud, and I'm also, I would say, happy that we were able to join the European Union. This was our intention from the beginning. We are living in the heart of Europe. In calm times, our life can be okay, but in more windy times, we always paid, because Slovenia is situated on one of the main division lines in Europe, and there was Iron Curtain also at our western border. In Second World War, we were occupied by Germans, Italians, and Hungarians. We had quite bad historic experience, I would say. No? And then our wish was just to join those free nations in Europe and to share the same values with them. And our borders were changed in the history. We have minorities of Slovenians in all neighboring countries. It's interesting. We are the only former Yugoslav republic with minorities in Italy, Austria, Hungary, also in Croatia. No? So in European Union, so far, the borders are protected. We don't change borders anymore. We were happy to join those who follow the basic idea of founding fathers of the European Union on respect for dignity of everybody. So we just wish to be part of that community, which is now facing, I would say, many problems. But I think we should ask ourselves how our life would look like without the European Union.
And you've also been involved in reconciliation work. When we think back of last year or half a year ago of the trip up the Danube in the boat, why is this reconciliation work very important right now in Europe?
Many historic events caused, I would say, bad memories in this part of Europe. To be in the middle, to be at the center, I would say, means also to be to be victim of interests of the others. And I mentioned already Iron Curtain, and on that boat from Bratislava to Vienna, we had a unique, I would say, what happened there with our remembering, with forgiving. So it was really, I would say, a true reconciliation effort, because many things were done in the past. Our cultures were not respected, once from one side, once then from the other side. We had problems to speak our languages and so on. No? So now the situation is so different. There is a respect, there is better neighborhood. We enjoy unity in diversity. It sounds romantic. It's not always so, but it's much better than it was in the past. And we wish that experiences and sensitivities from Central Europe are understood also in the western part of Europe, which has different experiences. When this part of Europe, Central Europe, had to fight against Turks for 300 years, at that time some Western countries were dealing with exotic continents, and with their interests in Latin America, Africa, Asia, and so on. And one more fact I would like to mention: when Western Europe was on the way to develop free, so family of free nations, which was called First European Community. I prefer to use this word than European Union. In my view, community means more than union, and union also needs sense for community. Now, at that time, we were under communism for half a century, and this was again another experience. So this is why when we speak about freedom, nation, culture, religion, dignity, subsidiarity, sometimes we mean we don't share the same understanding of these words with our Western friends.
So you mentioned the Iron Curtain, and for many of my generation, it is a very distant concept that you read in the history books. Can you share a few details of life behind the Iron Curtain? What does that even mean, and why is it important that so many countries gained independence?
I mentioned already my years in the communist Yugoslavia. Communism likes very much the concept of the enemy and the idea of the avant-garde, of the progressive forces which know or who understand history and who leads us to the better future, to a better future. But the idea of the concept of the enemy is that we will do better work by eliminating those who are different. and we were different. The politics was for the members of the Communist Party. In my country, more people were killed by revolutionaries, by the communists, by the brothers, than by the occupators. And more people were killed after the war than during the war, because we survived communist revolution in my country. So I know what I'm telling about if I speak about the concept of the enemy, which I think is coming back in Europe. Iron Curtain means that half of Europe was living under communist rule. So Yugoslavia was a little bit different after 48, when Tito finished his friendship with Stalin, but the regime was almost the same. It was a communist Yugoslavia, and the other countries were together in the so-called Comecon. The difference, because the West insisted, Western countries, especially United States, supported Tito very much after his conflict with Stalin, and they insisted to, for example, to give more freedom to the people. So we were lucky to have passports after 65, I think. We got passports, and the other, so the citizens from the other communist countries were happy to be able to visit Slovenia. Yugoslavia. We were considered as a Western country in the last years of Yugoslavia, I would say. But the nature of the political system was the same. I had to learn in the university that religion is a very bad thing, for example. And if you didn't quote this statement, I would say you didn't pass the exam. I mean, you had to say religion is a bad thing.
And what is your vision going forward for Europe?
I studied European history a lot, and of course especially the establishing of the European Union. I think that the solution is a community, not only in European terms, also in global terms. The main question is not who is the first or who should be the first. The main question is what we should do together. And togetherness can only be based on the respect of dignity of everyone. No? And this is what founding fathers of the European Union agreed before they signed the first treaty on coal and iron. No? And I think this is also the best export article of Europe. We don't occupy, we share our values and principles. And when I was vice chairman of the parliamentary delegation to Russia, I said several times to my Russian friends, why you are against Ukrainian European ambitions? The best for Russia would be if it was surrounded only by the members of the European Union, because we don't attack, we don't occupy, we share the same values, and a community can be based and can be successful only if it shares the same values and principles. I think this is the concept, this is the way. And European Union began with the concept of man, not with the concept of industry.
And you mentioned before that you were a Christian, which is often, you don't find many Christian politicians. What shaped your faith as a child, and then how were you able to maintain your Christian values in politics?
I'm very grateful to my parents that they were able to educate me in the faith. And they educated me to be an honest man and to, first of all, to respect the others. This is what I learned in my village. So sometimes I say I'm villager from that particular part of Slovenia. So I got everything necessary, I would say essential elements for my life in that village in first 10 years of my life. The problem today is, not only today, for many years we have the so-called cultural fight in the European Union. Not only in the Union, Christianity is treated in an ideological way, not in a cultural way. No? Now, I remember I read a book of Indian philosopher Vishal Mangalwadi, who asked Europeans, be attentive to your roots. Christianity gave so much to Europe, many concepts, also for social life and so on. But today Christianity is considered as an ideological element, and politicians speak like sociologists, I would say. But Robert Schuman, one of the main fathers of the European Union, was a very strong Christian, but he was able, nobody told he was agent of Vatican or agent of the Pope or that he was a religious extremist. He was very, very serious Christian. He is in the procedure to become saint in Catholic terms, and he was able to. He was genius, I would say. He translated what Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. He translated this into the language of respect for dignity. No? And I think that no political movement was able to make stronger equation between you and me than Jesus, who said, your neighbor has the same, you are equal as human beings, you are equal. We all have different identities, but we have equal dignity, no? This is the essence. I think that today's ideological approach ignores the message of Christianity, I would say. I don't like, so in first democratic elections on the eastern side of the former Iron Curtain, everywhere, Poland, Slovenia, Croatia, Estonia, Hungary, those political forces with Christian inspiration won. Christian Democrats, conservative parties, people's parties, and for Christians there was no need to teach them what European values mean, because they in fact were maintaining European values and first of all concept of respect for human dignity.
And would you maybe have a funny or interesting story that you could share of when you were dealing with other different diplomats of other countries over all the years?
At that time, I remember I met Helmut Kohl in Budapest on 1st of July in 1991, and a half months after I took responsibility. This was very encouraging meeting. Helmut Kohl, who was the leading personality at that time, who was also Christian, as Margaret Thatcher was. I met her 3 times, and she had very clear ideas about communism and totalitarianism. So he said, I understand your political objectives. He didn't say, I support, but he said, I understand. And it was a lot for me to hear those words. He said, if we Germans use the principle of the right for self-determination and reunite it, we cannot deny this right to you. He said, but my question is, how to avoid the explosion of the barrel of powder on Balkans. Then I said, our wish to be independent and to have democracy is not a threat to anyone in this world. The problem of Yugoslavia is not Slovenia or Croatia, but the totalitarian system which did not respect human dignity. No? So when I spoke with Jacques Chirac in Munich a few months later, I said the same. So our wish for freedom and independence is a very European wish. We just wish to be equal in these terms. No? So, and I would say that we convinced Chirac in 15 minutes. No? But there were so-called realists who said, "Yo, this is not possible," and so on. But it's interesting. No? I intentionally mentioned Margaret Thatcher. We celebrated 100 years of 100th anniversary of her birthday, and at that time, Margaret Thatcher, Helmut Kohl, Alois Mock, Wilfried Martens, Jacques Chanter, these were people who had very clear ideas, very clear visions, and what else? They were not just follow public opinion, but they made it. they contributed with their leadership to public opinion. Today, politicians just follows public opinion polls, and they are moving after that. No, they don't lead. Many of them don't lead. They just adapt to the situation. So it was, I would say, a special time. At that time, I'm happy. I'm grateful to the higher power that I was able to participate in or to do something in that particular time.
And which advice would you give to us, the younger generation, going forward? It's a very broad question, but it's a question I like to ask to each.
I will mention again a former Austrian foreign minister, Alois Mock, Dr. Alois Mock, who said, "History is a good teacher, but does not find scholars, no, pupils." This is the problem, no? I mentioned those names, Helmut Kohl, Margaret Thatcher, and so on. All those knew what happened during the Second World War, what meant communism, what meant the Iron Curtain. Now we have already new generation at work which does not have this direct political experience. No? But it is important that young generation knows what was wrong in Europe, what the concept of race means, what the concept of class means, the concept of higher culture, all these strong ideologies did not contribute to good developments. So it's good that young generation knows what the concept of the enemy means, but first of all, what human dignity means and the concept of community. Each society has to find a way has to agree how to live together in diversity. No? The totalitarian regimes try to simplify situations by eliminating those who are different. The concept of human dignity means everybody is welcome to respect everybody. And this is how we can do communities. And I think that the way how European Union can survive and how can we develop global consistencies is the community. But in the community, we are all, I would say, welcomed. I would say European Union is not done only in Brussels, Paris and Berlin. No, I'm part of the European Union. I have my own responsibility. I can undertake something. So I think that it's good for young people to know those basic concepts, to be aware of the differences between those concepts, and to be aware of the responsibility for the societies they are living in.
And I have one more question. You mentioned before that you keep a harmonica in your pocket. Could you play a small piece for us?
So, when I was responsible for that one goat, my uncle, who did not like to serve in Yugoslav Communist Army, he illegally left Yugoslavia, and he was based in Graz, in Austria. He worked in a factory, and he sent me in 1955 first harmonica, and then I bound that goat to a bush, and then I was trying to find the first melody. So before politics, I was harmonica player, I would say. I mean, I didn't play concerts, but I think it's good to be on the side of the music. And my slogan today is, we need more music. So I played almost in all countries I visited, I played. Usually I played out of joy. This is also a symbol, especially less numerous nations have to be attentive to small things and to be great in small things. And when I played to 400 students in Leuven in Belgium, I said, Bill Clinton was president of a bigger country, he played a bigger instrument, he played saxophone, Bill Clinton. And I said, I was only prime minister of a smaller country, so I play a smaller instrument, but with a small instrument you can produce a very good atmosphere. No, you don't need organ or piano, you can use this small thing to... I will intentionally play a very traditional, old song, popular songs, which is known in Slovenia, Austria, and Hungary. Yeah. It's a very simple one, but you can even dance, no? So,
thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Next time I can play on the Blue Danube.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It was really a pleasure to talk to you and to hear more of the story.
Okay.
Thank you.